Welcome to the scaring YouTube channel of Brave Souls, to a journey into the unknown. Tonight's tale will chill you to the bone, as we descend into a realm where reality fades and nightmares come to life. Make sure the lights are off and you're comfortably settled in, because what you're about to hear may haunt your dreams. Now, let's begin. It was a crisp autumn evening when Laura and her friends Matt and Emily drove through the winding country roads, heading toward a weekend getaway in the mountains. The plan was simple: a cabin, a few days of relaxation, and no distractions from the outside world. But somewhere along the way, they took a wrong turn, one that would lead them down a path they never intended to take. The sun had already set, and a thick fog rolled in, obscuring the view of the road ahead. Laura, who was driving, glanced at the GPS. It showed no signal. "We should have been there by now," she said, her voice tinged with frustration. Matt leaned forward from the back seat, squinting at the darkened landscape outside. "Maybe we should just stop and ask for directions?" "Ask who?" Emily replied from the passenger seat, peering into the fog. "There's no one out here." As if on cue, a flicker of light appeared in the distance, a faint glow cutting through the mist. Laura slowed the car, and as they drew closer, they saw the outlines of a small, old-fashioned town. There were no signs, no people, just a row of dimly lit buildings that seemed frozen in time. "This doesn't look right," Matt muttered. But Laura was already pulling into the town's single street, parking in front of what appeared to be a diner. The neon sign above it buzzed faintly, casting an eerie green glow across the empty street. "We can at least see if someone's inside," Laura suggested, stepping out of the car. The others reluctantly followed. The air was unnaturally still, and as they walked toward the diner, they noticed something strange. The town was completely silent. No wind rustling through the trees, no distant hum of cars, no sound at all. It was as though the place had been cut off from the rest of the world. The door to the diner creaked open as Laura pushed it, revealing a scene straight out of the 1950s. Red vinyl booths, a jukebox in the corner, and a long counter lined with empty stools. Yet, despite the diner looking abandoned, a pot of coffee brewed behind the counter, and a plate of pancakes sat on one of the tables, still steaming. Emily's eyes widened. Who made this? Where is everyone? Matt took a step back, suddenly uneasy. "We should leave. This place isn't right." Before anyone could respond, the door behind them slammed shut with a deafening bang. The lights flickered and the air grew cold. Laura rushed to the door, pulling at the handle, but it wouldn't budge. "We're trapped," she whispered, panic creeping into her voice. Then, the jukebox came to life, playing an old, distorted tune that echoed through the diner. Laura, Emily, and Matt stood frozen, unsure of what to do next. Suddenly, the kitchen door behind the counter swung open, revealing the shadow of a figure. It stood there, motionless, in the dim light. As the figure stepped closer, they could see it was a man, dressed in a worn-out uniform, his eyes empty and hollow. "Welcome," he said, his voice low and monotone. "I've been expecting you." Before they could react, the lights in the diner went out completely. They were plunged into darkness, save for the faint glow from the jukebox. The eerie music continued to play, but now it was accompanied by another sound, a soft, shuffling noise that seemed to be coming from all around them. Matt fumbled for his phone, turning on the flashlight. The beam of light cut through the darkness, revealing dozens of shadowy figures standing at the edges of the diner, their faces pale and expressionless. They didn't move, but their eyes were fixed on the trio, watching silently. "We need to get out of here now," Matt yelled, grabbing Emily's hand. They rushed toward the back exit, but as they approached, the figures began to move, slowly closing in around them. Laura pushed past them, frantically trying the door, but it too was locked. "What do they want?" Emily cried, her voice trembling. The shadowy figures drew closer, their cold, lifeless hands reaching out. Laura felt one brush against her arm, and an icy chill shot through her body. Desperation surged through her, and she grabbed a chair, swinging it wildly at the approaching figures. But it passed right through them, as though they were made of mist. Suddenly, the jukebox cut off, and in the silence that followed, a voice whispered through the diner, a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "You shouldn't have come here." The floor beneath them began to shake, and the walls of the diner seemed to melt away, revealing a vast, empty void. The figures began to dissolve into the darkness, and the three friends were left standing in the middle of a black abyss, with no way out. In the distance, they could hear the sound of footsteps, slow, deliberate footsteps, growing louder with each passing second. Panic surged through them as they realized they were not alone in the void. A figure emerged from the darkness, its face obscured, but its presence was unmistakably malevolent. It moved toward them, its body shifting and twisting as though it didn't belong in this world. Laura, Matt, and Emily backed away, but there was nowhere to run. The figure reached out, its hand impossibly long, and as it touched them, everything went black. The next thing Laura knew, she was waking up in the car, the morning sun shining through the windows. Matt and Emily were still asleep in the backseat, as though nothing had happened. The town, the diner, the shadowy figures, it was all gone. For a moment, Laura wondered if it had all been a nightmare. But then she looked down at her arm, where the figure had touched her. There, burned into her skin, was a mark, a twisted, black symbol that pulsed with an unnatural heat. She quickly shook Matt and Emily awake. They groggily sat up, but before they could speak, the radio in the car crackled to life, playing the same distorted tune they had heard in the diner. Did you hear that?" Emily whispered, her voice shaking. Matt nodded, his face pale. "It wasn't a dream, was it?" Laura didn't answer. She just started the car, her hands trembling on the steering wheel. They needed to leave, and they needed to leave fast. As they drove away, none of them noticed a small sign at the edge of the road, half hidden by the fog. It read, "Welcome to Silent Town. We'll be seeing you again." You never know what you might find when you take a wrong turn, or what might find you. Some places are meant to remain forgotten, and Silent Town is one of them. But now that you've heard its tale, be careful on those late-night drives. It might be waiting for you too. Thank you for joining us tonight. If you enjoyed this chilling tale, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that will keep you up at night. Sleep tight, and remember, the shadows are always watching.